Hi guys, and welcome to Kinaway TV. I am hijacking today's session. Today will be a session relating to Aboriginal businesses in Victoria. I'll also be talking about the impact of COVID, the new restrictions that have come in, and I've got a little panel here with me, or a yarn circle. We're going to be discussing some of the pros and cons that we've seen trending within the Aboriginal Victorian business space. What we've done to prepare ourselves, and also sharing of some of our wins and our losses, because we're not going to pretend everything's okay. If you do need help and you are feeling anxiety or emotions, that you can always reach out to any one of us here today, but also more professional services that are out there tailored to like Yarning Safe and Strong, which we put down the bottom. Also, you've got Beyond Blue and other like Lifeline that are excellent organizations that are here to talk. So before we get started with the introductions of each of our members of the Yarn Circle, we'll hand it to Scott, the CEO of Kinaway, who will be giving us an update on what's happening on his side and the big picture stuff for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders in Victoria and some of the announcements. And then we'll go to James, economic development, and then we'll get into our professional introductions and historic and where's our mob from. And so yeah, I'll hand it over to you, Scotty.
Okay, thanks, Isaac. And first of all, just like to acknowledge the land that we're all on today, and also acknowledge the past, present, and emerging leaders in our communities. And obviously, us sitting here today, we're on different lands, but everybody out there watching today will also be in different lands too. So always please take that moment to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that you stand on. Look, it has been an interesting time for Kinaway. I think I started in December, and certainly my first month we had the bushfires come through. We started to tidy that up a little bit and get some specific supports out there for business, and then COVID hit us. Something that I never expected, but I guess it's these times where, as a mob that have been in this country for 60,000 years, the one thing I've noticed through my short time is how resilient we all are. And how we see some opportunities out there. A lot of businesses have struggled. A lot of us personally have struggled. I know I have as well. I've had my own struggles through this time, separating your life and your home life and your work life, and when you're all situated out of your home at the time. But I think this has also been a great opportunity for us to work out and establish some really good support mechanisms for businesses, and the state government and Commonwealth government in particular have been very, very helpful in that area. There's a couple of things I want to talk to today. That's in some groundbreaking news. We've received funding for a new position for a women business sector development manager. So that person will particularly be working with all our deadly women business people out there, and also help establish some women businesses as well. So looking at some opportunities out there with government and corporate partners, and actually help we can mentor some of you deadly women out there to get into business or take your business to the next level. So that's really, really exciting. The second part, which is an exciting announcement for the board, and it's something, when I first started, thought we would probably achieve in 3 years' time. But COVID's seen a situation where we've been able to pull the resources together with a few of our members, and we're in a position now to actually acquire our own business hub. So the planning stages are going together. Kinaway will have its own head office and opportunities for Aboriginal businesses to come in and rent a space, which is going to be amazing for all our businesses in terms of being able to collaborate together. I think what I find well with Indigenous businesses here in Victoria, especially, that once we start, you're around like-minded people, some amazing things happen, especially when values align, and that's something I'm really, really looking forward to. So hopefully we'll get that done before Christmas, have the new building sorted, and we've got some really good funding streams happening to set that up, which is fantastic, and some great support from both local, state, and...
We've got a few complaints about the jerseys in the background before we can progress with the... so business owner Adam Williams, supply us. Can you cover up the jumpers in the background? They're hurting my eyes.
Look, I'd probably suggest for Adam just to close his eyes. He has done that in most of his business life, and winged it most of the way. No, look, it's game day. I'll get very excited about game day. And my staff will know, in particular, in Richmond playing in that particular day. I'll have all my Richmond gear in our staff meeting. So it's something we've continued to do through COVID. But yeah, look, some really exciting things happening. We've had a lot of support from state, Commonwealth, and state government to get the business hub off the ground. So, in terms of the more specific information, that'll come out over the coming weeks. But it's a definitely goer. The board have approved the budget, and we've got the support we need from in terms of the financial side of it. But one other really big project we're about to undertake as well is our digital capability strategy we've put together along with IBA. We've received funding where we can actually help build 50 websites for our businesses out there. So any Kinaway member that doesn't have a website, we're going to have the resources to build a website for them. And utilising our Kinaway members that do specialise in that and building the websites. But basically, we're getting the pool of funding that IBA normally dishes out to businesses, and we'll be managing that and going through that process to ensure that we get websites out there for our deadly businesses that can actually help them take them to a new level. So whether it's they're giving just a digital presence or whether it's taking some things online. So maybe it's an online shop, maybe some services they sell online. You probably would have seen recently we've done some really cool stuff with Shopify and so forth. So we'll bring all that together to make sure that through this time that we diversify what we do as a business. And one of those things is taking our business online.
Yeah, and Scott, you mentioned about the business hub here in Melbourne. So we'll be able to house a lot of Aboriginal businesses under one roof, which is fantastic. It's Metro. Have we got plans for the chamber long term regarding some of the regional centres, or is that sort of on the cards as well? Because I know a lot of the regional businesses, that's really important for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got ongoing conversations happening with the various traditional groups around the state. We're going through the process of signing MOUs with them on how we can support the traditional owner groups in their economic development. And one part of that is help establishing business hubs in the regional areas.
Yeah, beauty. Cool. Now, I know you could talk all day about the plans and schemes for Kinaway. So we'll jump over to James, who's the economic development broker at the Chamber of Commerce here in Victoria. And so he's going to be sharing some of the other announcements we have. And then we're going to go around into the introductions and introduce the lovely Jaynaya Winmar as well and go from there. So James.
Wonderful. Thanks, Isaac. And thanks, Scott. It's nice to have somebody else facilitating these sorts of online discussions because, as some of our members are probably aware, we've been putting out a lot of content on our socials, the Facebook and the YouTube, just doing some webinars, around the mental health and well-being, things around business support and personal development as well. So, it's nice to have yourself facilitating this one here today. Like you mentioned before, my name's James Brown. I'm an economic broker in the Kinaway team. I recently joined. It's been about five or 6 months now. Joined in a pretty challenging time. As I think we're just starting to move, as Scott mentioned, we're starting to move out of these of the bushfires, and then obviously this COVID situation kind of kicked in. So it's been a real sort of testing time for myself, adjusting to the role, and then obviously for the businesses as well. It has been a really sort of challenging period. It's I've been here for about 5 months now, and just a bit about what I've been doing. Some of the support services that we've been trying to offer our members are, offering sort of business reviews. So we've been contacting our members who we've kind of determined who may have been affected by some of these, either the bushfires or the pandemic, and just making contact to see how they're travelling personally and also their business, and just trying to determine ways in which we can help, whether that's through a business review and identifying parts of their business which they might need some help, and we can put them in touch with certain services which may be of assistance. So that's been keeping myself busy over the past few months with another colleague of ours, Damien Foley, who I'm sure plenty of our members are aware of as well. Another one of the support sort of packages that we do have the business tax support packages that I've rolled out. Now, these are specialist sort of support packages which help provide access to a range of bookkeeping and accounting services. Also help with the preparation and submission of tax returns and BAS statements, offer online access to Xero, MyOb, tax and payroll obligations, superannuation and work cover obligations to staff as well. So I'd like to encourage any businesses that think that this may be a valuable sort of resource to jump online onto our website and fill out an expression of interest, and take it from there. So there are plenty of exciting things that we're doing here at Kinaway that we're trying to deliver to support our members. We are pushing out a lot of this content for the webinars as well as these business tax support packages and a few things that Scott mentioned too. So there's plenty going on, and we just want to make sure that we really are providing support for everyone out there, for our mob, because it's not an easy time.
Yeah, that's awesome, James, and we'd love to hear your some sharing as well. I think in this time everyone's had to pivot to keep income into the family, but we'd love to, you come from a professional athlete background, playing for Gold Coast, Melbourne City, playing football, the World Game. Scott, I know you've got the jerseys in the back, but so James, it'd be awesome at the end to hear how you had to go and reinvent yourself and pivot into coming into, professional, into corporate, so to speak, as opposed to playing professional sports. So make sure we come back and ask that question. So we'll do the introductions. I'll start first. So Isaac Harrison, founder of Bunjil Energy, commercial solar company, also Daily Discussions podcast. I'm a husband and a father of two. I'm a cubby man from southeast Queensland, from Moreton Bay all the way up to Hervey Bay, disputed, I should add that. And my nana's side is Birri Gubba, so that's up in the North Queensland as well. And my grandfather's father was a South Sea Islander man, a Kanaka brought over during the slave trade, known as blackbirding. So that's my story, and I've been in Melbourne for about 6 years now, and I miss home every day. And I'll pass it down to Jaynaya, who can share her story, and then we'll get into Scott and James's introductions. Down, up, I don't know. I think it's down. Jaynaya.
So my name's Jaynaya Winmar. I'm a Noongar Balladong woman from WA, but I've lived in Melbourne pretty much nearly 20 years. So Mum knows I'm not coming home, but I do a lot of work over there at the moment with the Noongar Chamber of Commerce as well. Shout out to them. But I currently have a company called Blakbone Sistahood, which is all about networking and connecting. But then with COVID, everything changed, so I had to kind of not even pivoted, I sidestepped really, and just jumped into connecting with this amazing woman who has been around the cleaning industry for years. So we've kind of networked up and organised a cleaning business together. So we're in the process of doing that. But that's just been quietly in the background of getting myself sorted and getting everything up and running. So I used to work for Isaac at Bunjil Energy and a few other Indigenous businesses on the way. So my journey's been a little bit different, and coming from corporate to through not-for-profits and all of the above. So I've kind of got a mixture of business experience.
You sure do. It's amazing how many people I run into that know Jaynaya. And I don't think it's because of the famous Winmar surname too. I think Janaya's proven, and she's a connector and is probably the best at it. So I'm sure the cleaning business will be a complete success, and offered free cleaning for everyone's home for the next. No, it's a coupon below. So let's go over to you, Scotty. You want to give a bit of your history, professional history, and then we'll move on. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Look, I'm a proud Wodjabolic man. I'm a father as well, and we have 4 children. One who is just finishing year 12 at the moment. She's having her last day at school today before lockdown, so that's it for her. So which is pretty exciting for her. Yeah. But look, I've worked private enterprise for the last 15 to 20 years, so I'm pretty new into this space, but I'm certainly bringing my learnings from the private enterprise, and then help using that knowledge I can to upskill and develop our businesses, in particular around the capabilities and capacities. So I've got to know most of our members so far and had some really good conversations, understanding where their businesses are. And I'm really excited for this sector for what the next 4 or 5 years brings in particular. My wife and I moved over from WA. We've been in WA for the last 17 years. So this is a bit of a change for us coming back home. We've got 4 children that have grown up knowing the WA lifestyle in particular, and the beaches and the hot weather. So this is a bit of an eye-opener for them. And look, even in particular, my eldest son, my 15-year-old son's actually just gone back to Perth. He just hated the Melbourne weather, so that was a big thing for us to let him go back. And he's come home to Victoria, to be connected to family and culture, and he's gone back to WA for cultural reasons, to be connected to his mob over there. So he's an adopted Noongar over there, all his mates call him. So because he's born in WA, I think that's good enough for them. He's a Noongar. So look, really excited to be in the role that I'm in at the moment, and I've got such a passion for this sector, and I'm really looking forward to see what sort of outcomes we get over the next, like I said, 4 to 5 years. I think there's some massive opportunities there, and even through this COVID, there's so many of our businesses that have pivoted and done quite well, which I'll talk to a bit later and some examples. But thanks a lot for inviting me today, Isaac.
No worries, champ. Well, it is technically Kinaway TV, so thank you for letting me host it. James, you want to do your introduction, mate, and share, and then we'll get into some questions.
Sure. I know we touched on it just a little bit earlier, but yeah, my name's James Brown, a proud Gamilaroi man. Grew up on Bunjil country up on the Tweed. I come from, like mentioned previously, I come from a professional sporting kind of background. So I grew up playing soccer in my younger days. Moved around a bit, lived in Canberra for a little while, back on the Gold Coast, Newcastle, Melbourne, had a bit of a stint overseas as well in Cape Town. Playing over there, and once I was over there, I kind of realised, playing football and professional sport wasn't for me anymore. I was really passionate about my people and seeing my people, grow and succeed. So, I decided to come back to Australia, jump into a bit of study, studying business degree, majoring in sport management and economics. And I wanted to put that to good use as well in the corporate sector, and really, support our businesses and really support our Indigenous community to grow and to really flourish like I know that we can. So I'm really pleased to be part of the Kinaway team. It's I'm really thankful to Scott for bringing me in and giving me this opportunity, and really being able to support these businesses. And I should have mentioned at the start, I'm a proud father as well of a little one, and have a beautiful partner here too that really is a great mother. That's my family situation too.
That's awesome.
Should have mentioned first.
And Jaynaya's yet to go
edit that.
Family, so
I'm a plant mother.
I'm on lay-by. So let's go into the first question. So what are some of the biggest challenges? I think we'll start with you, Scotty, James, and we'll go to Jaynaya. What are some of the biggest challenges facing, from your perspective, the businesses? But then second, I'd like you to answer what's the chamber facing. The Chamber of Commerce Victoria holds over 200 Aboriginal Victorian businesses. We've got national bodies, we've got other groups, consortiums, different players. So what's the challenges facing the businesses and the chamber in regards to this pandemic?
Yeah, sure. Look, after the pandemic sort of started having a major effect on the community in terms of shutdowns, we did a really in-depth survey of our members. And when I say survey, it wasn't just a tick the box and so forth. We did 2-hour interviews with over 40 of our members, and an online survey that around 70 of our 100, and I think it was about 140 of our members at the time. We only had 140 members at that time that actually answered it. So we got a really good understanding as a base point where the businesses are at, and then identified and then what they thought some of the challenges were going to do. Because I could sit here now and tell you what the challenges I think are, but in reality, it's every business is different. I guess some of the common themes is probably around the reason why they got into business in the first place, and a lot of that was around wanting to about self-determination and contributing and not about making wealth for someone, but also creating opportunities for their own mob and their own communities. And I guess the biggest impact that I'm seeing is not the fact that they're not making any money at the moment, is the fact that it can easily be disconnected from what that original aim was about contributing to the community and economic independence. So that's the thing I'm worried about the most, is how, if we go into hibernation, which we have now for 4 or 5 months, how do we do it for another couple of months? What does the end look like? What does the recovery look like? And that's something that the team at Kinaway with James and Damien Foley are trying to establish at the moment, how we can actually help businesses recover. So I think whilst you got the business side of it, I think you got the personal side of it as well, and especially around mental health and and just the engagement that you have in the business community. In terms of Kinaway, it's been a really interesting period for us too, because we've got a lot of new members through this period. So we've increased our membership with it's around 70. I think it was about 70 odd new members up until about 2 weeks ago. Then we had another 10 members last month, and we've another 5 going through the process at the moment. So what's that done? I think that's showing probably the importance of our business out there needing support and reaching out for that support, because people keep saying, and especially we've had a lot of praise from the state for our presence and obviously engagement with our members, and that is deliberate, and that's one of the things that Isaac's done a great job on. In particular, that my instruction to him when I first started is we just got to kill the marketing online with Facebook and LinkedIn. So because the one thing I find the most, we as a mob perform better when we're connected with each other and connected with others, because we all share the very similar ideals and values. And through COVID, this is exactly the same. And I think that's why Kinaway has probably grown and prospered through this in terms of service delivery opportunities, because government acknowledge that too, Commonwealth and state, that we are getting trusted more in the Indigenous business space, and we are the peak body for Victorian Aboriginal businesses. To the point now that we actually have more members, Victorian members, on our database than Supply Nation do for Victorian businesses. So that says, and Supply Nation has been around for a long, long time, and and they do a great job in terms of linking businesses to corporate opportunities. But this is where the chambers are a little bit different. The chambers are there to support the Indigenous businesses. And I think that's going to be the challenge moving forward, is keeping our businesses engaged through this time, because, I've had members that I've had many conversations with that have been able to put their businesses in hibernation, is a term that we use. However, the continual kick in the guts because people out there haven't been doing the right thing is hard to cop, not just a business person, but just as a human and as a person. So I think that's going to be the big challenge moving forward. Governments are supporting us greatly. There's some amazing things that are going to be happening for Kinaway the next 12 months in particular and onwards. And we do that because we're here for the businesses. And that's the idea of having this podcast today, because there's, the webinar today, because there's just so much going on. There's a lot of information, and it's about just bringing us all together, a bit of a yarn about it. What's going on? What's affecting us? How we can move forward? How we can support each other?
Yeah. Yeah, I know initially looking over some of the strategy for Kinaway and the marketing approach was, Supply Nation's really great for the national imprint and talking to some of these really big national players or corporates and government. But what about, Little Miss Daisy's cafe behind Shepparton? What about John Smith's plastering over at, in somewhere in Pakenham or somewhere tucked away? It's about, I think, the touch points in every one of our community. And then also a lot of our fellow Indigenous businesses aren't having that presence online. So it's old-fashioned James and Damien having to get on the phone and dial the 03 number and have a conversation, or go out there when obviously we could. So that's fantastic, Scott. So we'll go to you, James, about some of the challenges you've seen with the businesses. So yeah, feel free to share, and then we'll go to you, Jay.
Sure, yeah. It's like you mentioned, we myself and Damien have spent the last few months, on the phone, really having some long and detailed conversations with our businesses. Obviously, their sales levels have been, severely impacted throughout all of this. But, what I'd like to focus on, and something that I noticed straight away from joining the Kinaway team, was just how resilient, our members are, and, how they look at this as an opportunity for their businesses. Like the vast majority have been affected, and pretty severely too. But they're always looking at ways of how they can work on their business, and how they can kind of pivot, or what sort of opportunities are there. So, within these conversations, they did last, for a few hours sometimes, but a lot of that conversation actually revolved around what can we do, how's the community going, things like that. So it was really encouraging to kind of see and experience that sort of approach to this situation. It was, really community sort of focused, just about themselves, but also about the wider Victorian Aboriginal business community. And yeah, it was just about, I think resilience just kind of shone throughout the conversation. It did revolve around what can we do to kind of work in our business in this downtime. Obviously sales levels are down, so rather than working in the business, they're finding ways to work on the business. So I think, like we mentioned, maybe working on the marketing sort of strategy, or if they can really refine their business plan and their business strategy and things like that. It was really encouraging to see. So that is something that we noticed, having these phone calls, and as a result of these phone calls, there is a report that is available on the Kinaway website if anyone wants to jump on and have a look. They get some really detailed information about the results of that. But yeah, obviously, people are affected. But yeah, what really became evident to me was just how resilient we are, and what we really are looking at these opportunities throughout this whole thing.
Yeah, that's a great point. The resilience. I think our people have been through a lot over the last 200 years. And I'm sure that a virus isn't going to scare us all off, and that we can come back stronger than ever. And it's also, if you look at the Indigenous Procurement Policy 2015, you've got a lot of the creation of businesses to take advantage of that. And this is sort of our first real recession that we're actually entering into now. So it's a good test for us as Aboriginal people and also as businesses. So I'm looking forward to, and that's one of the questions I've got about what happens after for our community. So I'll hand it over to you, Jaynaya Winmar. So would you like to share about some of the challenges you faced with your, you just shared a bit about you pivoting or sidestepping into another business, and then founding that, and then continuing trying, because I know your skill set is networking. You're the queen of networking. So how does one then have to do it digitally, where you can't go up and hug someone and do your thing, So I'll hand it over to you.
Well, in answer to that question, it was actually getting dressed today, because I knew I was coming on with a whole bunch of brothers. So I dressed with all the sisters. So I've got Kuri Circle earrings, Ali fashion shirt, and Nagali pants from Nagali. So it was kind of kidding myself out with Indigenous female businesses, because I knew that I was going to be surrounded by boys today, and having that presence so grounded. Like,
trying to replace James.
Yeah, well, even behind there's like Mimi and Jinder, who have just signed a contract with Adidas to do sheets and all of that stuff. So that's them in the corner. And then you've got Crew Prints also have done stuff, and I think some vases that I kept of Gathermore's.
Rory, if you're listening, Janae's got your vases, so missing stock, you know where to go.
That's the way we're supporting each other now through this business space. So it's buying a product from an Indigenous business that you might have went down to the markets to get. It's now online. So you may have to wait a week to get it, but you're still getting it. And sharing that love around too. Like we were talking about the footy and the hubs and all of that stuff. So Neville and Sam, I sent through one of the sisters, K-Ray. She's done a mental health checkbook where like she just checked in every day, and so I sent that up to Sam and Nev just for something else to do. But it's that support that I'm missing, like the going out and seeing people, like seeing you guys every day in the office. I now turn the TV on and pretend like people are talking to me over there. But just that background noise. But I think for my journey, it's kind of been a little bit surreal, because it's kind of gone high, low, low. So I started my business before going to Canada with Kinaway for the Indigenous World Business Summit. So we took a delegation over there with amazing Indigenous businesses and met Indigenous businesses from all over the world. So we're still connected with a lot of those people. So it motivated me to do a lot more of my own business stuff. Then I got home, and then the bushfires happened. So two of my deadly sisters, so Tara Brown from Walla Connections, and Kira from Kalinga. So we raised over $50,000 in food, vouchers, all of that stuff to send out to Indigenous communities, because it was just a direct result of our people not being represented in those discussions for the bushfire when it was actually happening down there. And one of the community members actually got turned away from assistance that was being given down there. So I messaged the girls and went, hey, we should do something. And then Vaka came on board to help, but Vayo came on board to give us space and organise a barbecue. So that we did all that. Then we also got a van supplied by someone to deliver all the product down there. So that was just a surreal moment of like the devastation of bushfire, but then community spirit. We had all these people from Northcote rock up with like nappies for babies going, where do we put this? I'm like, I don't know. We hadn't factored in babies. We just thought like, food and supplies, but not baby products, ladies products, men's products, like all of these things that we hadn't actually factored in. So we had that, and then Christmas happened, and then I was invited with Winmar, so the Indigenous Women in Mining Resources. We went across to Latin America for the World International Women's Day Austrade event for Latin America. So we were over there talking Indigenous businesses over there. So all of the products we were gifting to people, and people were buying. So the ambassador of Peru bought one of Jaron Street's yoga mats. So she actually sent me a photo of her doing yoga on an Indigenous yoga mat in Peru. So that was but then coming back, that's when COVID started to happen. So we were pretty much sitting in one of the terminals in JFK, and we were the only ones there, thinking, if they cancelled our flights, what are we going to do? So I came back and had to self-isolate at home for 2 weeks. And then just after I was allowed to leave the house, they introduced the first lockdown period. And through that first lockdown period, I kind of did an audit of my business and where it was at, and realised that I had 3 or 4 contracts of events that I would have normally done, about 80 grand's worth, that I wouldn't be getting for April and May. So it was kind of going, okay, what am I going to be doing now? Plus also giving support to other people. And I think Kieran, one of the guys in the Murrin 50 program, organised our Indigenous business get together every Friday. So we kind of just debriefed every Friday. And then from that, like that networking, we are kind of going, okay, well, there's other people that have closed their businesses. What can we do? So just start talking it out, and then touching base with you guys again, and just going, hey, look, this is what's happening, and getting the updates from Kinaway through, like in the email format and text messages. Feel like you guys stalking at times, but it's good because it shows that people are like still thinking about you, even though you're not. So yeah, and then I reverted back to doing reconciliation action plans, and that's where I met Catherine. So we started this cleaning company because I was writing out a rap for her, and she goes, how about we just do it? I'm like, okay, sure. So we started. So it's been that process, but then all the changes that I was making for businesses along the way, I can now do from the start. So our stuff is from like Maddie from AKM. Our graphics and stuff is from Dixon Patton. So Sophie is doing our internet, our websites. So a lot of those Indigenous businesses that I'd previously connected with, now we can procure from them. So it's that growth internally that we're doing and supporting each other. It's like we're not physically being able to be present, but we can be remotely present.
Yeah, that's amazingly well put. And I'll have to tag or get Liam to tag in, I think, every business you mentioned, so they get their due credit, so that people can find who they are. So that's fantastic. And just for mine, Bunjil coming into that managing director's position, and then for us, it was more than 50% of works that were actually that were lost because of projects pushed back and then weren't going through. So that took a hit to the bottom line. But I was able to pick up a bit of consulting stuff with what I've done with Bunjil for other organizations, and that's been able to sort of balance out that ability. But then I also found out, and we'll touch on that soon, that my routine, and exactly like you, Jaynaya, my routine of getting up early, going to the gym, getting into work, getting home off to play football, dinner time, family, put them to bed, was thrown out the window. And that was sort of my my guideline on how I operated. So that was the biggest challenge I found, and we'll go into that next. So Scott, for a personal level, the personal things you've had to overcome, you mentioned briefly, but what sort of the changes that you realized, hang on, after the third, fourth week, this isn't going to work, I'm going to have to swap it up here. You're at home, I know you got 4 kids, and your wife works at home as well. So what was that moment where you're like, all right, I need to put something in to change, I need to put action plan in?
Yeah, look, it was that light bulb moment, I think, about week 2. And it was like, this is getting really stressful in terms of being able to define what's your work time and what is your family time. And I think what our business has been going through is really, the issues I've been facing are very minute compared to that, because mine's more about just self-awareness about your behaviour, and that's what I was finding it really hard to switch off from work. So I used to really enjoy the fact that driving to work in the morning, that you think about your day and plan and so forth, but also coming home was the unwinding. So what I had to start doing is think about, if I'm just so wound up about work and some of the dealing with some of our business, some of the stories that we've heard are quite devastating, and it does have a personal effect on you. So being able to put that in a compartment somewhere and being able to get on the rest of your life is really, really challenging. And I don't think I've really overcome that. I think I'm able to probably be more self-aware of my own behaviours at home and my interactions with my family and friends and virtually and so forth. But I guess what I've found, how I've been able to change the way I do things, is we've got a lot of opportunity now to catch up with people virtually that maybe we haven't connected with for a while. Because the one thing I found the most is sometimes just reaching out to someone to ask how they're going is really good for yourself as well, because it just gets yourself started thinking about how you're really going as well. And you can't solve everybody's problems, but sometimes it's just good for someone to know that you care. And that's one thing I've really supported with our staff as well. And some of the feedback I've got from our members about that, I didn't have anything to talk about, but I really appreciate that you guys actually care. So I think that's a really important thing to me personally, is being able to connect with people that, normally that I wouldn't connect with as often as I should. And that means family in particular. But just some of those friends and colleagues and out there that you just can just give a buzz. Hey, how you going? Is there anything I can do for you? And sometimes it's just an ear they want to listen to. And what happens is you start talking about your stuff too. So it's really important to be self-aware and be able to support each other by just connecting, not downloading all your garbage onto them. And that's what I call it, the downloading it. But it's just having that connection, because it does make you feel better that someone's out there going through the same thing as you. Because I think sometimes we forget that it's okay not to be okay. That's the one thing I think COVID's teaching everybody, that it's okay to feel terrible. It's okay to feel down. But what do you have in place? What's your Alt Control Delete to reset for you to start again? And that just comes down to your emotional intelligence, and in particular just being self-aware of your behaviours.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Scott. Jaynaya, what's some of the action plans you put in straight away when you realize, hang on, these old tricks aren't going to work anymore?
Well, for the first 2 weeks, because it was lockdown and I didn't have any resources at home, because I'd just come back from overseas, so I actually physically couldn't leave my house because I was a good person. So I found a quarantine lockdown dress up week. So literally dressed up as something different every week. And then I realised I was in lockdown for 2 weeks. So someone else did the second week for me. So that kept me entertained, because I had to physically get up and get dressed. And I think that's one of the important things too, because it's so easy to sit in your pajamas all day if you don't have to actually physically see anybody. Because I was getting into the habit where I'd kept my pajamas on but put scarves on, because then people thought I was dressed up but I wasn't. So getting physically dressed is one of those important things. Setting up my own space. So this behind was all online shopping. So lucky Kmart delivers and I live in the city. So, but yeah, like like Auntie Oprah says, creating your own space is really important, because if you're working and living in the same space, it's really hard to separate when you're doing both, especially because I live alone. So I could literally sit on my couch and be working the whole time if I didn't separate it. So that was really important. And all of my family are in WA, so ringing them, reassuring them that, like, I don't have COVID, like, my stress when I was actually traveling, because we did catch the subway in New York, so she freaked out a little bit. But I've been wearing a mask since the start of March when I started traveling anyway. So it's pretty much a permanent fixture when I'm going out. And I think that's one of the important things too for community to remember. If you are wearing a mask, hygienically touch it and use it, because if you're coming home and bringing it down and touching it and you're not hand sanitizing, it's one of those things that I'm seeing a lot of people doing. If they're doing photos on Instagram or doing stories, they're actually pulling their masks down to have that conversation. But that's why it's there for a reason. So if you're hand sanitizing or not, that's kind of transmitting all of the stuff everywhere. So that's one of probably the biggest things I've kind of done. I have also booked in 2 weeks worth of dinner dates with all of my friends over the next 2 weeks. Last week I was feeling super flat because I'm a people person, and just that people energy, like, I was really missing. And so I put the shout out to my friends and went, hey, look, I haven't seen your face for 135 days. Let's do a Zoom. So that's what I'm doing the next few weeks. So that's a good thing. But I'm also stressing because I'm supposed to go to Perth for a wedding in October, which Uncle Mark probably won't let me get through the border.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think Clive Harmer's going into bat for you, Jaynaya. So there you go. No stress. No, it's a good point. Then, James, coming from that athleticism background, I'm sure you're used to being told what to eat, where to breathe, and what to do every hour of the day. How did you adjust into this sort of new pandemic phase?
Yeah, I mean, mate, it's been a while since I've been playing professionally, but I appreciate you keep bringing it up. Makes me feel a bit.
He's a superstar, about himself, but the point.
No, look, it's I think for myself, it took a little bit longer for this COVID sort of situation to kick in. I think I was just kind of resistant to that. I wouldn't really stop and check in with myself to see how I was feeling. So, to be honest, it did take me until I think it was early last week, where I did realize it is actually affecting me. So since then, I think I've made a point just to stop and check in with myself, and also to check in with my family as well, to check in with my partner, and also my little one too. She's around 13, 14 months, so she's just learning how to walk now. So she's cutting around the house, and she's loving it. But I think for myself, I found running to be a good escape. Even if it is, half an hour or 40 minutes or something like that, that's time to myself. Outside of that, I'm either working or looking after the little one or studying or doing something like that. But when I'm out running, I don't take headphones, I don't take anything, just chuck my watch on, and I'm out the door. So that's something that I've found to be really helpful. And it's not about that physical part; it's more mental, if anything, for me. It gives me that escape as well. And I've also found, even doing with these webinars on the Monday nights as well, just around that mental health and well-being. I found that to be really beneficial, just to take a moment, whether it's an hour, just to really stop, just to check in and, to see how you're going. And I think like Scott mentioned earlier, it's okay to not be okay. It is a challenging time for all, and we're all in this together. So, that's some of the ways I've found it to be effective to be dealing with, this situation.
Yeah, awesome, mate. And I know we've had great feedback. You were saying great feedback from, I think, Mandy and Lee Couch's sessions. I think a lot of people were very grateful to connect through a different medium as opposed to more business and learning. It was more just connecting on a well-being basis, and strong women too that were leading those sessions. So Good job. And I think we'll go on to the next question. So let's talk about the future. What does the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander business sector look like once we come out of this, whether that's early next year or at the end of this year? What do you guys see? A lot of us as members and other businesses working together, or is there big construction projects? Where should we be sort of looking and maybe gearing ourselves ready, for this the boom that they're saying that the boom's going to come and government's going to put the cash in, and we want to hit the ground running. We've got the social benefits as Aboriginal businesses. We'll start with you, James, this time.
I start myself. Okay. Where do I see our businesses moving out of this? I think after having these conversations with all of our members, like I said before, everyone's really taking this time as an opportunity to work on their business. So, our member base is very diverse in a lot of different industries, and I think we'll be coming out with a new sense of purpose almost. I think a lot of our members are going to have refined sort of business plans and strategies and actually know more about their goods and services, their capability and capacity. They have really taken this time to really try and understand the market and also understand their business and where it actually sits within that market and how they can effectively move out of this. I think mainly around that, I think it's just going to be a more refined sort of approach from our businesses, and we really know
sharpening
our purpose. So that's where I see it from having these conversations over the past few months.
Yeah, beautiful. And Jaynaya? She's like, what's the question again?
No, I think it's going to be one of those things that those businesses that have pretty much got shut down at the start. So like the food and entertainment industry, what do they look like when they come back? Whether they've pivoted, whether they've just waited, whether you're not allowed to have more than 10 people around, 50 people around. So all of those industries will look similar but very different. And I think that's one of the biggest things when we're looking at these new businesses, or when businesses come back, is what do they look like? What growth do they have, and what restrictions they'll have around them? Because even now, we like a lot of the industries that have closed down, like the fitness industry, like people can't even go outside as of Wednesday, so you're not allowed to exercise anymore. So the construction industry is still going ahead, but scaling back because you're not allowed to have more than a certain amount of people on site anymore. Cleaning industry is going up, but then after everything is perceived to be clean again, or safe to go back to work, what does that look like? Are you going to scale back on those businesses? So there's like toing and froing for all of them. So I think if you've got a fortune cookie out there, picking the right industry and where you're going to put your support, pretty much.
Awesome, thanks, Jay. And Scott, what does it look like for yourself and the vision for the chamber?
Yeah, look, just a really good point Jaynaya made then about businesses who are doing really well through COVID-19. It's one of those things where a lot of our businesses, and I've talked about this a few times, in terms of strategy-wise, when we got into business, it's because of an opportunity presented itself, not because we're a specialist in a particular area. So I call it the Bunnings sausage sizzle strategy. You buy a barbecue and a sausage, bang, you got a business and off you go. Some of our business has been really good pivoting in that, using that theory through COVID-19. But, you can be very careful then about if you gear your business up too much in one area, what does it look like when the demand's not there anymore? So that's something we've got to be really, really mindful of. What I'm seeing a lot of now, and I think it's going to be the way of the future, is the collaboration between some of our businesses in particular, especially when it comes to capacity. All our businesses have the capability to be awarded and win these contracts, but sometimes to the capacity to be able to deliver on those because they don't have a lot of capital in the business in the first place because of the Bunnings sausage sizzle strategy. So it's about how can they work together moving forward to actually deliver on some of these bigger contracts out there. And we're seeing some of it now, especially in the PPE space, but that's not something you can rely on in the future. We had one business in particular that sold, I think it was 30 or 40 ton of hand sanitizer to Woolworths. Now that's not going to be sustainable. So that business has done really well in terms of they've got some great capital out of the profit of that and being reinvest that into their business. And they've been very clever about it. They're saying, we're not going to pump all that money into this part of the business because we know at the end of it, it's not going to be sustainable. So how do we look at diversifying our business and using that capital to then actually create other opportunities? So a lot of businesses are doing that. But I think also it's now as a key, probably the peak body here in Victoria, is how we can actually support those businesses now. And we're having some really great conversations with government and corporate partners about how they should engage an Indigenous business now and also post-COVID-19. So looking at their supply chains and looking at how can you invest into a business. We're not asking for a handout. We don't want a free contract. We don't want you to pay over and above for a contract or get it because we're black. We want you to get it because we're good at it. But how do we deliver on that because of the capacity? So that'll be the collaboration we don't want, again, I'm not saying we want the handout from the corporate partners. Can you change the payment terms? Can you pay differently so then they've got the capital then to invest into the business? So I think that whilst it's devastating what's happening out there, there's been some big learnings for everybody in the wider community, for our businesses, but also how government and corporate partners will procure from Indigenous business in the future is going to change forever and for the good.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think a lot of the mainstream Chamber of Commerce out there, and I did some time with the Victorian Ministerial Council for Small Business, and I see a lot of what Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island SMEs are doing. We're actually spearheading a bit of a social movement for everyone else is behind us. So we've got women business, migrants in business, we have disability businesses, veteran business, we have all these other ones, and we're pushing forward and setting that path, and then alongside these other social ventures. And so I think the way these big corporate and big government are having to change the way they do business if they want to have that impact through those social spends. So that's a great point, Scott. So let's get into some questions.
Yeah, I'll just touch on that again, Isaac. I just got one other thing, just in regards to, but just in regards to that, look, corporate is changing the way they're thinking about it. So Woolworths changed the way they were thinking into engage this Indigenous business. So, and I've had this conversation with the business in mind, and they've been okay for me to share this, but they had to get the hand sanitizer to Australia, had to go via Hong Kong. Now, to get across the border of Hong Kong and China was almost impossible. They had to pay a bribe to get across there. Now, you tell me what Aboriginal business is going to feel comfortable paying a $100,000 bribe to cross the border? None, let alone any business. However, Woolworths paid it for them. Can you believe that? Like Woolworths said, no, that's fine. This is normal behaviour. We'll pay it for you. So again, that is insane. And that's where I think businesses, corporate world, are going to change the way they're thinking. And it's using those examples, highlighting them, that will actually help our mob go forward out of this COVID-19.
Yeah, and there's so much. No, exactly what you said with that, the fee popping up when you're importing and exporting. I know some stuff that we've brought in previous businesses. There's all these, you don't know what you don't know. So you work out your cost structure and you know what you're going to sell for. And then someone picks up the phone and says, oh, it's been held up at Hong Kong because from here to China to Australia, that's a no-go. And you don't know what you don't know, unless you did a, economics major on the, economy in Hong Kong, you wouldn't have a clue what's that until, you've gone, we're first generation business owners. So you're like, what's going on? And so it's incredible. And I've got friends that have construction company in PNG, and it's just the system that they're used to, that you pay this here and you pay this person here and you do that over here and you gift them this. And so it's understanding all the different markets that Aboriginal businesses are playing in, which is exciting. And like Jaynaya said about going off to Peru. So we'll start with some questions because that is going really quick, the hour. Firstly, a comment, Adam Wooding said at least they weren't Collingwood jumpers. Is one of the about the thing in the back, so we'll just put that there.
Yes,
everyone, Adam.
That's a good point, Adam. And Adam, I've still got to pay your invoice, so be careful, son.
Yeah. So Adam's done the Shopify webinar and it was fantastic. Our businesses were learning to sell online and get the website going, so that was really exciting. And I'll let our production company bring them up.
Can I ask a quick question, Isaac? Did you happen to put gel in your hair for this webinar this
afternoon? Yes, everyone knows that's what
this morning.
I catch up with the Kinaway guys now and again, and sometimes I don't have my Soul Glow or my oils for my hair, so it's an afro. So they tease me because it doesn't fit into the screen, but because we're doing something professional, or we were until James asked that question, I had to put some hair product in my hair. So enough about my hair, which is thinning. By the way, anyway, let's go over. Liam, do you want to bring up the question? I think Adam Williams had one. Beautiful. So Adam Williams, one of the founding members of Supply Oz, who Scott just mentioned about selling products to Woolies, and they make a beautiful point. Well put, Adam. What is the best way to market success during these times when some are hurting without rubbing it in? And I know this would be, I'm on the ones that are hurting list, but if you're got success, I think Jada as well, Heart to Heart Medical Supplies are doing really well. So how do you say, hey, community, we're doing great, but without, salt to wounds of other Aboriginal businesses? Let's start with you, Jay.
Well, I think they've done it really well with these guys because they've also emphasised their give back, and I think that's one of the really important things. Like they've realised that people are hurting, but then all the social impacts things that they can be doing. So they're celebrating their wins, which is amazing, and I think we've all liked and shared everything that they've been doing. And I think I've even looked at my local Woolies to see if their stuff's on the counter. But it is like they've followed that up with a few weeks later with what are their social give back. So that's really cool.
Yeah. And the boys want to add anything?
Yeah, I think on that, I think as Jay said, it is important to celebrate your wins. Especially now, with everything's kind of happening, and it might even have the opposite effect as well. There might be people in the business community that might see that and be encouraged, seeing things like that as well. Seeing other businesses that are doing as well, they're doing well throughout this as well. So, yeah, I think it is important to encourage your successes during this time as well.
Scott?
I can just quickly add that the good thing about Indigenous businesses that we are a cohort and we do stick together. And whilst there's a lot of businesses struggling than they're doing well, it's good to see businesses like Supply Oz, actually what Jay said about giving back. But also, I know in particular, Adam and Sean Andrews are first one on the phone to me to see if I'm okay or to see if any of our businesses need any help. And I know they're even supplying some of the businesses in particular. So I think Adam's asked that question deliberately because he just it's called fishing for a compliment. They've done a really good job, and I think as a mob, I don't think we're ever jealous of anyone else's success. But we got to learn from. There's learnings along the way, and that's one thing I've seen a lot of our businesses is learning from each other. And so there's nothing wrong by saying you're going well, and our business is strong enough to know that they're not rubbing it in.
Yeah, beautiful. And that's a little comment for you. Well said, Scott. And that was earlier on in the session from Judith and Dion from Darky Designs, I think, if I remember, and Supply Oz has said Deadly Mob. So thanks guys for tuning in. Maddie Everett, does this current environment create a good opportunity to collaborate with other Kinaway businesses, getting creative? And you just shared on, I think all of us shared on that during the process. I think just to build on that, what are some of the ways if your business can help another business, in that process? I think let's just touch on that briefly. Do you want to start off, James?
Some businesses that can collaborate with other businesses. Yeah, so I mean through Kinaway, obviously we have our membership base where businesses can work with each other. They can obviously, one way, an example is they could incorporate each other into the supply chain, moving out of this. So yeah, I think this current environment is a good opportunity to collaborate, especially as we move out of this pandemic as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Jay?
I think one of the really easy ways is use the Black Bullet Grapevine. It's a different version now. We've got social media. I can share instead of like yarning up to everybody. So that's the point. Like even all the stuff that I have been shopping for in home isolation is like putting a post up saying thanking that business for that product, or different businesses celebrating their successes. Like give them a hand clap, like celebrate it, share it, and even tag Kinaway in, because that's generating that conversation back to Kinaway, because then that's where people can connect with those other people from. So if someone doesn't know anyone from Supply Oz, if we've tagged Kinaway in, they can reach out to the boys at Kinaway and have those kind of conversations about creating a collaboration.
Yeah, beautiful. And now for me, the simple way to help is if someone sends you an invite to like the page. Yeah. If someone sends you a connection or something, it's nothing on our end to just give that person a little bit more momentum. I think every bit counts. Or even if you bought the product, jump on, make sure you leave a review or something nice, a nice comment about that. Every little bit helps as well. I think for businesses to see that creates that bit of momentum. Scott, did you want to share anything on that?
Look, I think the guys cover it pretty well, but I think in particular, I like what James said around using each other's supply chains. That's a conversation over a lot of our businesses now, is we have such a diverse membership from different categories that there is opportunities to use each other. Like we've got people that are stationary, we've got a mortgage broker, we've got accountants, we've got lawyers, we've got that many products and services out there. And the example I always use is you look what the Jewish community has done over the last 80 or 90 years to be one of the most persecuted people in the world in the 1930s and 40s to what they've done. And they created their own economy and then build their scalability, their capacity and the capability and scaled up over time and built some great wealth within their own communities. There's no reason why we can't do the same. So, before you go and buy, you go down to the bank to do your mortgage, for instance, call our mortgage broker. See if there's a way they can save some money, because you're not going to pay any more for it. You're going to pay the same, but you're also helping out another Aboriginal business. And the word of mouth, the grapevine is just huge these days with the social media stuff. So just share, be there for each other, and just look at ways that you can, as your own business, how you can utilise other Indigenous business in your supply chain. If there's not one in Victoria, use one from another state. That's what it's about. We're one mob that's been here for 60,000 years. It's not about state versus state, mob versus mob. It's about using each other to create our own economy and our own self-determination. Yeah,
beautiful. And all right, so I'll divvy up these questions. I'll serve 1 to each just to get through it because we've gone over now. So, Scott, what are we doing for regional businesses during this time, from Judith?
Yeah, so I guess it's the continual connection in terms of the staff to the businesses, so the reaching out that we're doing. So a lot of these business reviews. We're talking to a lot of the local councils as well to try and help look at supply chains within local councils for starters, to see if we can get Indigenous businesses in there. We've got around about 70 regional businesses on our membership database. And again, it's very diverse. So it's about how we connect them with some procurement opportunities. Which is challenge at times because of the location. But again, the new norm, what is it? It's a lot of this online stuff as well. So I think it's, what we're doing with the traditional owner groups in particular with the MOUs is really good, because we're, the traditional owner groups are trying to, establish an economic independence as well. So, and if anyone does need any help in those regional areas, feel free to reach out. I'm readily available. My contact details on the website. I know the team's contact details are on there too. Always reach even just to say g'day. And that's what my guys have been doing. Just ring just to say g'day, and then just see what happens from there.
Beautiful. And we'll finish this one up, and I'll divide it across James and Jay. James, do you want to share about some of the other webinar ideas that we've created for the future, and how we're going to incorporate it into it online? And then Jaynaya, can you share on actual some groups that you can access as an Aboriginal business that you know of, that you could get plugged in straight away? So you want to go first, James?
Yeah, so I think as we spoke about previously in this webinar, we are looking to put out more sort of support services for our members. So we have these business tax support packages, obviously those Kinaway webinars, which are held 3 times a week. We have the marketing package as well that we're looking to implement. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, an online networking event for our members, that's probably something that we will consider. Creating another sort of platform where we can have members that get together throughout this tough time. Just makes sense, even just to get together like we're doing now and just have a yarn. I think it's really valuable. So, judging from the feedback that we've got from our webinars, an online networking event, is definitely something that we will explore.
Yeah, beautiful. Jay?
A few out there at the moment just to have a look through. I know Kinaway have, for a lot of the women involved in Business in Heels, that's one of the networking events that they've kind of been running out as well. I'm on a separate event called the CEO World, so the Indigenous females in the CEO network. Indigenous business support. I know I've touched on it with Kieran from Queensland. It's kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit because they can go out and do stuff now, but it might even be up to re-get that activated. And I know like Kinaway are doing a lot of stuff. The girls from Clothing the Gap are doing some online content with Wella, fitness programs with healthy eating and diet and exercising. And I think they've just launched one of their, because I know they did this one a while ago, but they've got another one where they've done a virtual run as well. So that new medal is like gum leaves, looks really deadly. Amelia are also having health and wellbeing events, and they're tapping into other resources all across the state as well. So because what we're finding is a lot of Indigenous business support that is for Victoria at the moment are also struggling. So looking outside of Victoria for resources as well is also really important.
Yeah, beautiful. I think we'll leave it on that. So thank you guys for coming on. We will tag all of the names and brands, or well, Liam will, that Janaya's mentioned, Scott's mentioned, and James has mentioned down below. Thank you so much for your questions. We aimed to probably keep a couple of these maybe once a week, these sort of informal panel discussions, just to keep the touch points with the community so you know what we're doing, and hopefully we can know what you guys are doing and feeling. So feel free, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the bell notification. And I think we've got myself teaching everyone how to create a podcast tomorrow. So there'll be some more information about that on our socials. So tune in live or rewatch that if you want. And then we've got Mervyn Fernando Friday, Claystone Marketing. And then next Wednesday, we have Maddie from A&K Law talking on structures, business structures, legal protection support. And so thank you to all my guests. And we will all see, technically your guests, but thank you for everyone for tuning in. And we'll all see you soon. So